How's everybody doing out here tonight?
Woo!
Alright, so we got some amazing guests that are going to be coming out here. Do we have any fans of Five Nights at Freddy's?
Right here.
I don't think you need to put your hand up. I think we know. It kind of... Did your mouth move? Jesus. I'll have to get a picture with you a little later. That is cool. Do we have any fans of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild? This isn't a bit. I have not been able to turn the game off since I got it, so I had to bring it up on stage. So we're gonna have some fun. We're just waiting for it to fill in a little more, so anybody that can hear my voice, head on over. We're gonna be doing some voice acting panels. All right, so first and foremost, let's go ahead and introduce one of the voice actors for Five Nights at Freddy's. Ladies and gentlemen, Kellen Goff.
Panel ever. I've never paneled on a couch before.
You know what? You can even Tom Cruise it and jump on it if you want. Don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that.
I was about to. I call your bluff.
I live by a phrase, YOLO. Next up, we got some more tremendous people coming out. So let's go ahead and give it up for the voice of Princess Zelda from Breath of the Wild, Patricia Summersett. Princess. I don't know if you guys know this, I can die happy now. You have no idea. I just got knighted by Princess Zelda. Come on now. Last but not least, the sound director.
I was going to grab it, but I didn't know if we were like doing a bit.
I would be honored. I would be honored. Just don't break it, because I don't think I'd have insurance on it. And the sound director for both the Breath of the Wild and a little-known game you guys might have heard of, might not have heard of, but Horizon Zero Dawn. Another fantastic game. Jamie Mortataro. Voiceover director, sound director, ninja. We answered that.
Hello everybody, how are you doing?
Palm Springs, give them a welcome. How are we doing tonight?
Very good. That's our theme song.
I'm not even sure whose it is at this point. Oh, okay, well.
Testing.
Test.
Yeah, we have to make it interesting, don't we? Like, that's the only way we can do these kinds of things.
Take this off.
It is Ganon. Hope we got some Hyrule Warriors out there to help us out tonight. So, Kellen, let's start right off the bat. You told me you wanted to unveil something tonight. There's some Five Nights at Freddy's fans that are in the crowd. They made some noise earlier. Look at them waving their hands.
And, hey guys, how's it going? So, how many of you know this little guy up here? Yeah! Some may know him as Golden Freddy, some may know him as Fredbear. Now, Fredbear's voice has never really been... what's the word? We can't understand him because Scott Cawthon, the creator of the games, pitched his voice so low that it just sounds like... So, here today, I'm here to say, one, I am the voice of Fredbear. Nobody knew that at the start. And I'm here today to do the voice for the first time.
Ooh,
so,
you guys want to hear that, right?
Yeah! All right. Hi, I'm
No, we built it up too much.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed your time at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place.
All right, yeah.
It's me.
That's Fredbear.
Anybody got to change your pants? Okay, so I was telling Kellen a little story backstage, and maybe there's some parents out there that'll agree with me. My nephew is obsessed with Five Nights at Freddy's. My nephew, see, little man right there, about your age, and so many mornings, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, I was woken up by screaming, thinking my house was being intruded on or something. No, we just played a video game.
Now, was it his screaming or was it coming from the game? Because sometimes we're like, and it freaks
people out.
It was definitely probably both of it, now that I think about it. That is absolutely frightening. So now,
Whoa.
if you ever want to interject with that, I have no problem with it. We're all just chilling, just having fun hosting the panel up here. So, Patricia, we talked a little bit backstage. Why don't you go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself? We want to get to know everybody on stage.
I'm keeping my mic off for the feedback factor. Hi guys, I'm Patricia Summersett. I'm an actor and voice artist. I started my career actually in Canada and then moved back to the US and moved to LA, and LA is where Zelda happened, which is what we can both attest to. But I've been doing voice acting for over 10 years alongside everything else, and I'm very happy to be in Palm Springs, my first time, and it's stunning. Yes, it's hot, but it is also breathtaking. The mountains are gorgeous. So, yeah, thank you for the very warm welcome. It's been so
In
awesome.
Burbank, they're not that close. So it's nice to see all the little ridges and crests on it.
Yeah, you know, and you guys actually came on a good weekend because they can attest to this since a lot of people live here. This is a nice day for us.
I heard last week it was 10 degrees warmer?
10 degrees warmer.
I don't even think
and,
that's possible.
Like, we're almost drowning in humidity.
And drowning in
Yeah,
humidity.
it was not pleasant in the least. Jamie, let's go ahead and hear a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everybody. It is hot here, but we're loving it. Loving the whole. The show has been great. Everybody's been so nice. I spent a lot of time in Palm Springs, so I just love it out here. I'm from Chicago originally, and I started my career in advertising. I was an advertising agency producer for a long time, and came out to LA directing TV commercials, and then got into games about 16 years ago. Because I graduated from Second City in Chicago also, so I had a big performance background while I was a producer. And I'm in the Directors Guild, and my rep approached me about video games, and she said, you might be perfect for this because your performance background, you're a director, you're a producer, all this. So she said, you might just be perfect for you. I said, okay, game, Centipede? I don't know what she was talking about. And so then they were presenting this game to me, EverQuest 2. It's a long time ago. You guys remember EverQuest 2, but it was a very big game at the time.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate to get into that. So from then on, I've been directing a lot of games, voiceover, motion capture, and love every minute of it. So we worked on Zelda together. She's Princess Zelda. I was a casting director, and I also voiced Prince Sidon for that game. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah.
The good boy.
The stunningly attractive shark.
Yeah, the one that made me question some things about myself.
Just saying, sharks, they're people too. So Kellen, your game is primarily with Five Nights at Freddy's based on what I'm told are jump scares.
Yeah.
So you're to blame for nightmares, and okay, we'll settle that later. But with terms of that, and you guys can even chime in on this, with the voiceover aspect, how do you get picked from like thousands of screams and other stuff that goes on? Because I can scream, it sounds terrible, but like what did you do to make your screams stand out?
It was funny. The original audition for Funtime Freddy, which was the first one that I was lucky enough to do, and so blessed for being able to see everybody has enjoyed it. It was very wrapped in NDAs. He didn't want to say too much about it, so he called it costumed entertainer, which is so far from what Funtime Freddy is. He's a robot. I don't think he even has a costume on. But what he wanted was, and I quote, something that the kids would enjoy, but the parents would be hesitant to leave them alone with. So I thought of Krusty the Clown. I also thought of Chuck E. Cheese. I didn't know it was Scott Koff in this game. So that was just a happy accident. But I just sort of mangled something together from that. I think, I was talking to him once, I think he mentioned what got him in the first place was the fact that I let in really big. It's sort of, there's a thing in auditions called pre-life, and it's something that's improv, very short, otherwise Jamie will get very angry. But it's something to sort of get you into the scene. And sometimes people cut it out in the final product, but I left mine in. And it was different, so he noticed it over the others for one reason or another, and I'm so glad he did.
That's great.
Pre-life, it's a good point when you're talking about pre-life. It depends on the type of line you're doing. It depends where it's going to be triggered in the game. Because if there's something that's a line that's going to be constantly triggered every couple of seconds, you don't want too much pre-life on it because then it's too long because it'll be overlapping the next line. But then there's a lot of dialogue stuff where it's like heavy dialogue, like a direct to Hitman and Horizon Zero Dawn, these type of games. I always like a lot of pre-life and post-life on it, so it doesn't have this split in and out. It's actual dialogue, it's actual hesitation before you speak. Just
It makes it yours.
It makes it approachable in a conversation.
It's like you're the only one who can do that. It makes it completely yours. Yeah, it gives it an extra little watermark. And I imagine stuff with time codes. That's because stuff that comes over from Japan, sometimes we have to match it exactly. So pre-life is not appreciated there, because then we'll have to speed up the whole line or rewrite it.
And that's a very good point you're talking about too, about games. Like there's a lot of games that will be like Horizon Zero Dawn, which was initially recorded in English. So you can do pretty much anything you want to make this dialogue and make the performances as realistic as you want and unique. We worked on, Patricia and I worked on Zelda, and that was originally voiced in Japanese. So all the characters were motion capture and had motion capture animation. So the Japanese actors' lips were moving in Japanese. So what the writer-translator has to do then is take that Japanese dialogue, translate it into English, and use the words that might make sense to fit in those lips. It gets very tricky for them. They spend a lot of time this close to the TV screen looking at those lips.
And that's
for
exactly.
a performer, it's really, really very difficult to try to put like a performance within that. So it's quite a task. And people that could do it, it's a real skill and real talent.
Thank you.
I just go, good, thank you.
That's exactly how anime works too, if you ever wondered. You just dub over the picture.
But anime is like that, but anime is much more forgiving than a game. Anime
Except for the fans.
Because sometimes anime will just have lip sync like,
yeah, exactly.
and that's all they'll do. So it's like, yeah, just go nuts, just do it before he closes his mouth.
Exactly. But like Zelda and some other more advanced games and stuff, the lips are moving and you can see everything. It'll all of a sudden look like an old Godzilla movie. If you
I was
don't
just
do it
about
right.
to say.
Yeah.
Because that's what I grew up watching was the old Godzilla. And it took me a minute to figure out what was happening. Because I was young. So you bring up that, so maybe speak a little bit as, an artist that's up there. I imagine you're visually watching it as you're doing it, How hard is that to get your motion, your lips to capture, sync up what it is? Because a lot of that's got to seem unnatural.
Turn my mic on each time. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a certain challenge to it. There's a different challenge to every kind of voice work that you do, be it shouting or be it having to improv in a moment, coming up with new lines, or putting the life into a dub. The dubbing is probably some of the most challenging stuff, as Danny is saying, for sure, when you actually have to match the lip flaps. But it's also great. We got the script a little bit ahead of time. We also had a very focused room, had a kind of a magical room when we were recording. So it was the best environment and the best condition for that sort of work, which was very appreciated. But yeah, there is a challenge, but that's why we do it too. I mean, there's always going to be a little bit of like edgy challenge, and you're like, oh, can I make this happen? And then you ultimately do. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Just to prove that you can. If somebody says you can't, no, we can look at the script and the TV and remember to act at the same time. We can do it.
And that's a great point, because voiceover, you got friends that could do funny voices and stuff, but voiceover, it's really voice acting, and to interpret a script and to bring the intention and the emotion behind the line that's appropriate for those beats, it's such an unbelievable challenge. Get in front of a microphone, try to do those kind of things sometimes, not just imitate somebody, but try to bring your own personality to a line and really interpret the line, find the intention and all the emotional levels. It's a very difficult thing, and it's almost like a golf swing. It's like, for an actor, it's like 10 different things they're having to imagine at the same time, 10 different skill levels. So it's a very difficult thing, but it's so much fun to watch. And directed with Patricia and others in those type of games. I've directed a lot of Final Fantasy games too. And it's a challenge, but with the great actors, it's all about acting first. Not just funny voices or anything like that. It's all about acting first. These are all highly trained actors that can act with their voice. They don't just have a look. You know, on camera, you can just have a look, and it portrays, it communicates something, an emotion. But when you're in front of the microphone, the performance is invisible. It has to come. You have to, it's come from the heart, and it's a very difficult thing to achieve. And these guys are, you know, geniuses at it. Well said. Thank you.
Yeah, I know personally coming from the world of radio, it's a lot of stuff to get into, but when you actually get down what you need to do, it's like second nature, you know? So we talked a little bit about your game and, you know, the other stuff you've worked on, but the question that I've had since I was told that I would be hosting this panel for Patricia, what is it like stepping into and taking over such an iconic character such as Princess Zelda? Because that's going to be a daunting task.
Well, I'll tell you what was interesting was because there were so many NDAs around it, when I was auditioning for it, I had no idea what it was. So I was...
Now, I know what NDA means, but if...
A non-disclosure agreement. So, or basically, you're signing agreements. So even aside from that, the script that you get is washed so that you don't know what the script is, and it's going to be a script that's like maybe vaguely has the same themes, but it's not going to necessarily be the direct text, or it's going to, the names are changed to protect the innocent, sort of, so to speak. So when you
Just don't talk about it.
Yeah, you're not supposed to talk about even that, even whatever secret script you're working on. It's all very, very, very secret until you land a role, and then you sign those extra agreements, and then they say, okay, now we can reveal to you what it is that you've actually landed, which was a pretty crazy moment. But by that point, a lot of the decisions had been made as to what, like they'd already approved a lot of the kind of direction based on the audition, based on a callback, based on direction in the callback. So I didn't know it was Princess Zelda. I had an idea that it was some sort of princess, but I would have never dreamed that it was Princess Zelda.
I was dying to tell everybody, but I couldn't. At first, even when I got the scripts, as the casting director and director, they kept it from me for the first several weeks, and then when I found out...
so you didn't even know going into it what game you were working on?
Not at first.
Wow.
And so like we sanitized, the scripts are all sanitized, so you don't know all the characters and stuff like that. But some of the people that would come in, they would audition for it, and then they would say, you know, I heard that they're working on a new Zelda game, and they had no idea, they just auditioned for it. So, just like...
Jamie, I don't mean to upstage you. I didn't know I was Funtime Freddy until the game came out.
Wow.
I was costumed entertainer until that day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
sometimes NDAs can go really deep. It depends on how much they just want to keep it a secret.
Oh, it's like what you got going on with the Marvel universe right now. Like, I think they constantly, Bob Iger and everybody else has like a constant laser dot on all their actors in case they ever say anything.
Yes.
I mean, they can't even. Just talking to Bill Farmer, who's the voice of, is that me?
Goofy.
Who's basically who's the voice of Goofy.
Yeah.
You know, I tried to pry something out of him on Kingdom Hearts 3. He told me he would tell me, but he'd have to kill me. So,
Disney has eyes everywhere.
They
man.
do, man.
Yeah, one of you could be from Disney. There he is.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to tell us.
Oh no! I was just saying I was. No, the funny thing is that I was at that panel with Bill Farmer
That's awesome,
and
yeah.
Brent Irwin, and yeah, he didn't tell me anything that important. But at the same time, I can understand because they don't want to
So what
spoil
he's
too
saying
much
is
here.
he was at the panel, and he understands like how it can just slip out and stuff like that. So
Yeah, but nothing
just
got
think that,
revealed.
like, when you're-
except
when you're
that,
finally
it's
getting
a little
there
bit
and
difficult
you're
to do Japanese
voicing
voice
Princess
acting.
Zelda. What are we at, like 31,
Well,
32 years
apparently
now?
he has met a lot of
Zelda?
people from other countries.
How do you go about tackling that?
Well,
Because I mean, a lot of times you'll hear voice actors will say, I want to go this route with it, and I'm playing her like this.
oh, I went through all that. Like
Yeah.
after I found out what it was, I was like, oh my gosh, is there a verbal Hylian that I can learn? Should I try to like? And Jamie's like, no. Basically, what you audition for is what's been approved to start the game with, and that's the direction that everybody had already decided on that it was going to sound like before I knew what it was. So part of the work had already been decided in the artistic direction there. And then from there, it's a matter of filling it out as you go. But you cannot look at a character's entire history and build a character from its history. You have to build it from its present moment. You have to know what a character wants in that moment and what its drive is, what its action is. And so, as my background is theater, so I always come from that. I come from a full body experience. I go from the text, and ultimately it comes down to just like what's in front of you and what's the work, what's the context. What is my motivation? Yeah. So when all is said and done, you cannot play the past, and you cannot play I'm a god. You know, you have to play a person. And so that's how I approached it with Princess Zelda. And she's very relatable, so that was not a hard thing to find. There are all sorts of themes that everybody can relate to with Princess Zelda, like, you know, family, the pressure that she puts on herself, the kind of education that she has, her inspiration for nature. I mean, I was like, yeah, that's like
really, obviously that's unfolding in the game as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Constantly building on top of that. Jamie, is there anything you can add on that, or like whose direction was it to take the actual accent with Princess Zelda in that route? Was that something you did? Did that come from above?
Well, we started talking about accents, and you know, since it's a fantasy world, you know, they're not in England, and they're not in South Africa, they're not anywhere specific. And that's why some of the accents, you know, there's one's a little different than the other, and that's okay. It's almost like Lord of the Rings or Final Fantasy, where it's a unusual but specific otherworldly English accent of some sort. So
yeah.
We talked a lot about that ahead of time. We had so many decisions. People would come in like, Patricia, well, I have this. They're like, no, this is what we need right now. This is exactly what we need. We dialed in this is what it's going to sound like, and we move from that.
I forget who called it this, but transatlantic accent is where it sounds like a general American accent, but sometimes you pronounce R's as R's and other little things that just make it
Mid-Atlantic.
Mid-Atlantic.
Yes.
Oh, Mid-Atlantic. What's transatlantic then?
Something you made up.
Really? I thought that's how Frank Sinatra talked.
It's the Atlantic that had a sex change. So that's a bad joke. So you know, you mentioned that you didn't even know the role that you were going into. How does that affect you in terms of how you play something? Because
I have the same process for everything. It helps when you have a picture, but sometimes you don't. But sometimes they have art with the auditions that they give you, which is nice. But just absorb as much as you can from it, and then add your own little thing. What I always try to do is think of something that nobody else would do. Because if you were coming in and like there was a character that was a nerd, it's like, oh, everybody's going to do this thing. What if he just had like some nasal problems, and that might stand out, you know?
And their personality, you know, what you're always looking for is, as a casting director, you're always looking for somebody's personality, not just a funny voice. Like, he's even doing a funny voice, but it's still his personality.
Yeah.
So, and everybody's not right for every role, even though how talented they might be. But you're always looking for, what I'm looking for constantly is just hearing something that's very authentic and always living in the truth, even if it's like something silly game, but especially the real heavy dialogue games. Like Patricia brings her own personality to that role, and it was just, you know, nobody else could do that because it's herself. So it's not always about doing, you know, like funny voices too. It's bringing yourself to these roles to really flush it out, to make that character your own. So when I'm listening to casting, a lot of times, it's sometimes if it's, and you're saying too, sometimes it's not quite on the nose. It's just a little off. It's just a little different. Well, that's great, but it doesn't have to be always a different voice or funny voice. It's all about the truth of the character, the truth of the moment.
When Funtime Freddy was there, I was thinking that the whole time, like, okay, this is going to be someone that parents are uncomfortable leaving their kids around. Let's give him a mindset that makes that reasonable.
Okay.
So that's what's behind the acting there. And I always say some of the best characters are really bad impressions of people that are already up there. Like, I booked something with a really bad Harvey Fierstein once. And that's not just a funny voice. Harvey Fierstein has a lot of, the point I'm trying to make is that voice should be tertiary. You should think about the character, and that should inform the voice.
So you want to be different to stand out. Yeah. So kids, I know a lot of kids just started school. If you have one lesson to take with you, different's good.
Different is so
Different's good.
Let Princess Zelda tell you that. She's a princess, but she's like, breaks all the archetypes.
I suppose so. She does break the archetypes,
Yeah.
but
She yelled at me.
different is
Several
good.
times a week.
I feel like we're at a Comic-Con because we understand that different is good. And yeah, there's a whole community of people that celebrate different and diversity.
We're all human.
And geekdom. It's
We're
the
all
best.
human, unless you identify as something else. That's cool too.
Transatlantic.
Transatlantic human.
So, Jamie, you worked on a game that I did not think I would fall in love with as much as I did, Horizon Zero Dawn. That game was just truly. I bought it on a whim. It was my friend said, "Hey, you should try this game. I haven't played it, but I've heard good things."
I loved it. I really loved working on that project. It
Yeah,
was,
tell me a little bit about it.
well, Ashley Birch is the lead of that. I'm sure a lot of you know who Ashley is, and she's just absolutely, just a really brilliant actress and brought so much of her own life to it. They appreciate it too, as you can hear. Horizon, yes. So what's great about Horizon?
Anybody recording that? That could be some good wallow.
The interesting thing about Horizon was, it's modern prehistoric, so it's set in the future, but it's really they're living in the past. And there's no fantasy, there's no magical gem that's going to solve the problems. Even though it's fiction, you're still, it's based in reality, it's based in logic. And that's what we went for in that, with especially Ashley's character. Like, she would never understand being snarky. She would never understand modernism. She's an outcast in an outcast tribe, so she should really be like a puddle. But because we know at the end, I don't want to give anything away, but we know what her DNA really is, so that gives her some internal strength. And watching her character arc and really following it closely, I think is what really helped sell her and make her believable and make her approachable. And you want to root for her because she's vulnerable yet she's strong, and you watch her strength build as the game goes. And that was very fun to
And again, that's another example of different is good. Yeah.
And that's something that really attracted me to the game, because at first you're playing it, you have the opening, you're like, okay, I know what this is going to be like. It's a cocky protagonist, and then, oh wow, twists and turns coming everywhere. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I love it. And the other characters, the peripheral characters, are just amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Because when they first sent me artwork, and I was like, robots? Huh. I was like, where are we going to go with robots? But it all makes sense. It all makes sense. And I don't know if anybody of you know about that game, but if you want
Has
to
anybody played that
great
game
story,
out there? Horizon Zero Dawn?
Show of hands. Show of hands.
Yeah, it's
For those of you who have your hands down, what are you
storyline.
thinking?
Yeah, the storyline's amazing. If you want a game with a real story and rooting for a character and levels of emotion that you go through in that game, very intense. I really pushed a lot of the actors really to get to that, to the level of love. It's getting dark in here.
Man, are we doing that bad?
Yeah.
It's time to go.
It's like we're gonna start playing us off. Closing time's gonna come on. How did you get into that frame of mind? Because really, there's really nothing else to pull from with a genre or a game like that. So how do you go about visualizing what you want to achieve in that?
Well,
as the director,
it's a great point because I spent a lot of time with the writer and the producers on that, talking about her character because of course is driving the story. So I spent a lot of time with them, very specifically saying, where does she come from? Where does her strength come from? Where's her mindset? What's going to drive her? And we spent so much time making sure that nothing sounded too modern or nothing sounded where it was that wasn't true to the moment. And you're always recording this stuff out of sequence, so you might be recording the middle of the game first and the end of the game, a month from this, you're going all the way around. So you have to really track the character arc and be careful that she's not a different personality at this point. At this point, that character arc is consistent with transformation.
Now, so you touched upon something great there. Is those two games are very more or less polar opposites of each other in terms of how you go about putting it together.
Absolutely.
Because on one hand, with Horizon Zero Dawn, you've got a very strong protagonist vocally, and then going over to Legend of Zelda, Link doesn't talk. So how do you go about?
And
He yells a lot. He grunts, and So how do you?
Very relatable.
It's the Legend of Zelda and Link's the lead, but it's Zelda's driving the story.
Exactly.
So you're working all around that. All the characters have to support her journey. And so you work with her first, and you start working with Zelda first, and you start working, okay, how does she sound? Where does she come from? That starts to develop all the other characters and how they're going to sound, how they're going to interact with her. But Horizon, again, was set in the real world, even though, again, it's monarchy historical fiction, but it's set in the real world. So you wanted to have people that spoke like people, but yet there's new superstitions, there's new religions, there's new way of somebody might be speaking in a different tribe, and all these different things are going on at the same time. So that was just a gigantic puzzle of trying to figure out what is going to make sense without being like called out like, oh, that doesn't make sense. We have to make sense of every moment. And I'm always saying, staying in the truth of these characters and the story of what is their motivation, what's their intention, what's their goal per scene, for the entire show, the entire arc of the show.
Now, there was a big rumor, I don't know if you guys can talk about it. It came from Reddit. I believe I read that Breath of the Wild was going to give Link a voice for the first time. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, it was going to be me.
Was it?
No. He's just going to scream the whole time. But there was
I'm good at that. I can do that.
I think there was a lot of stuff where there's always rumors, you know what I mean? There's rumors like that. Stuff goes on all the time.
Yeah.
You know? So, who knows?
So how is that for you as an actress playing off another character that doesn't talk to you?
Well, I mean, because it's dubbing, it's not like you can do all that stuff in real time either. You really, it's all timed out in the room, so you are working with the screen no matter what. But actually, Jamie, being the supportive director that he does, he would often give line reads. I mean, some of the stuff was with Link, and then some of the stuff was obviously with the champions, and then some of the stuff is kind of internal to oneself. So you just get used to it. Honestly, like after you do a certain amount of it, you get used to each of what those things might be. Like, what is it, a monologue? What, you know, when I'm talking to somebody, if you keep what. Oh yeah, there are my links right there.
Our warriors have arrived.
We're just wondering why you guys don't talk. It's like they light up. They light up the room instead with their glowing shields. Oh, I love those guys. Yes.
That is awesome.
You're awesome.
I know, I'm so distracted now. I'm just like,
That's a good distraction.
my hero. Huh?
That's a good distraction.
It was an amazing distraction.
Link, and there's
You
two
guys
of
couldn't
them.
have walked in
I
at a
know,
better
totally.
time.
So what is it? Jamie would often give us some sort of a line before and sort of send us into the line reading each time with some inspiration. So Jamie's always been very, very good, very supportive at injecting life into it with us and getting the room ready for us to imagine the scene as it is.
Because that way it feels like a scene, like you're doing
Yeah.
it on the stage.
Which is one of the challenges of voice acting, because you do not have that person in front of you all the time, and you do need the line to be delivered as if you do. So setting up that
I
position.
try to do that with all my games. Is like, so you're not usually recording the actors separately, and you're supposed to have that sound like a conversation. So what I like to do is, that's why I trained in my performance background. So when I'm in a room with them, I can deliver the previous line to them so they can act off it, because acting is reacting. And if you get a good line read before, they could stay in that emotional state and you'll get that back. Then I'll do it in reverse with the other actor. But sometimes we'll be able to even play the other actor for the new actor if we have time, if the budget's there. Otherwise, I just perform those things.
So is it safe to say at one point or another you were